Well, one of the things that come to mind is, I know you've made your clear stance, for example, on independence. You've also, shared your sentiments, different programs and stuff in relation to your opinions on our relationship in the kingdom and stuff. But looking back at after Irma in 2017, do you think that at the time your party should have supported William Martin, with him with his stance?
But we didn't. After Irma, I was the first one
because government fell. I mean, he was ousted, and then
I was the first one to approach William and say, "Listen, do you need the help of the up party to? Do you want us to be part of a national government to where we won't have no, let's call it, no opposition?" And William brushed that off. He was good to go. So if you're good to go, well, then you're good to go. So I don't know about helping him any more than I could have. It's you put out your hand. The person doesn't want to take your hand. Well, that was up to him.
Okay, understood. Well, off air, we briefly spoke about basically what it's like doing negotiations with the Dutch, with Holland. That is something you have experience in. Of course, we have this week in Parliament updates on the country package. Still a lot of info needed in that area, particularly the proposal for the cohort and stuff. But looking back at your experience, what is your take on our current relationship with the Netherlands, and how can that be improved?
Let me make sure we understand. I had some very good relationships with certain Dutch politicians. I have some very bad experiences with certain Dutch politicians. Minister Pechtold, when he was Minister of Binnenlandse Zaken, so that included the outside parts of the kingdom. To me, he was a very fair minister, the ones that I dealt with. The present ones have created a lot of animosity between the Netherlands, Curaçao, Aruba, and Samad. And I'll go further too. In my time in Bonaire, because there, actually, the guards used to sit with me and we used to talk, and they would even tell me of their situation there. It was very interesting. The guards in Bonaire, they don't fall under the Ministry of Justice in Holland. They fall under the Ministry of, also I think Binnenlandse Zaken. So they get different packages than their counterparts in Holland, which I think is unfair. But I brought that up just to show you that there are still differences, even though that they are part of the kingdom. In St. Martin's case now, what my only thing to the newer politicians in there, you have to be very careful in agreeing to very vague proposals. And the Dutch are very good at that. And one of them, I do remember, was when Minister Knops there, State Secretary Knops, he met with members of Parliament and myself, I think the three members of the coalition, and he said, listen, I want to put monies up for the airport. We are not coming to take over the airport. We just want to see the airport being built. Okay, it sounded great. And then all of a sudden, when the money came, then the conditions came. There's 100 conditions.
But that should have been expected.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, from the time, but you make it sound so sweet before, and then the conditions come. But what you did is that you push everybody away from looking for another solution. You said, man, I got a solution. It's very cheap. But then when you come to read the bottom line, it's not as cheap as you think. So the same thing goes, and like I said, the country package, as you call it, is very vague. But in between that vagueness, there's a lot of, I call it, hidden agendas. One of the biggest ones that stands out is the issue that's going to come around with the civil servants. That they are basically saying in there, and this goes back to, I remember one of the discussions I had with them right after Irma, that 50% of our civil service has to go home. Now, what's going to happen to 50% of the civil service? You tell me that the government is going to agree to fire 50% of the civil service? Where are they going to go? Who's going to take them into account? Then there's another one there which I found very interesting, economic stimulation or entrepreneurial stimulation package. Then when you come to find out more, it's more or less to open up that Dutch businesses are able to open up in St. Maarten through an entrepreneurial program, but don't have to go through the bureaucracy of what I just named out to you. But that's not fair. You also stated in there about, I think in there when you read through the bottom line too, liberalization of the labor laws. But at the same time, you got a Minister of Justice put now more measures on people coming in. So it's going to be a very interesting when the real laws come out, that how it's going to be. And I say it again too. I've heard the debates that, no, but a lot of these things are good for St. Maarten. I'm not arguing that. Some might be good. Again, some have been maybe in even government programs from before, even now. But the question is also going to be, why did the Dutch government put it in such a way that whatever they write have to be approved without debates in Parliament? I find that to be a bit mind-boggling. If they're so good, then we should be willing to debate them. So you're telling me before of transparency, you're telling me of integrity, but it is only for who it applies to. So there should be transparency, there should be integrity. As a matter of fact, I think that it's wrong that Parliament also is conditional that you only got X amount of time to debate these laws, for example. That's wrong. Because Parliament is the people, and the people have a right to know what is going to happen to them. And a lot of them don't read this. And I think what has to make sure to happen too is that these laws have to come in English to Parliament. The biggest problem, Mr. Kantav, is that when laws come to Parliament of extremely high nature Dutch, the parliamentarian approves them, okay, without knowing the consequences of what the law has in St. Maarten. And it's usually done like this. No, it's a very important thing that we have to pass, because if not, we can't get this, we can't get that. So you got about 2-3 days in Parliament to pass it. And we've seen that. When we did 10-10-10, everything was rushed down your throat, including CFT. And if we didn't approve it, we wouldn't have 10-10-10. So we rushed it. And these laws were never really properly debated on. And now we're paying the consequences of it.
That history alone should be something someone has to learn from, though.
Well, here's the point.
I guess
then why do we agree?
Maybe the ombudsman, because
but
you
how
started
much,
with the integrity law, for example.
But how much more can she take? I mean, it can't be too, Mr. Kantab, that we have to run through the ombudsman for everything.
Understood.
That's not. You understand what I'm saying? It shouldn't. It have to be that there should be mutual respect. That's the right word, mutual respect. If the government, and I'm not even saying the Parliament of the Netherlands, because if you listen to certain parliamentarians in the Netherlands, they don't even know about the things that Knops and the Prime Minister threw down on the islands, and they consider
don't have
them
much of an interest.
Yeah,
that's
correct.
right. Yeah,
but why is so much of an interest from those two political parties in particular on these plans for Curacao, Aruba, and St. Maarten? It should be done in consultation. Say, listen, okay, we're going to give you monies, but what are these conditions? And we have to approve them together, because it's going to be done in your country. I was reading there in some of the financial laws. It states, I think, a value-added tax of, 12.5%. You realize that is 2.5 times presently pay in TOT. So how these reflections are going to happen? And if you do that, does that mean that we're going to get a reduction in income tax, for example? So if you increase heavily on one tax, which has been in my impression with when we were going to come up with the tax on the financial transaction tax. To me, once that was introduced, we get rid of income tax and profit tax. I was told, no, they don't want to get rid of that because then we become some tax haven and all that. And they don't agree. I say, yeah, but you see, this is the problem. If you go and tax the people over here, you got to give them relief on another side. Why should old people, not old people, why should pensioners have to put in income tax returns and all of these things? I mean, you got to make people's life also easier. And I didn't see that in these country packages. So I can't tell you at this point in time. All I can do is caution that you better read these things well and make sure, and I think that should be done in everything in St. Maarten, that the laws, especially the justice and finance, they should be translated in English and put on websites and printed out for people to see. Even the policy should be done like that, so that people know, that people can educate themselves to know what is the true situation in St. Maarten. Because a lot of them, you ask them to go, they say, but Theo, well, I can't read that Dutch. And I say, well, I can read some of the Dutch, but not all of it, because they got some heavy-duty words in there. And those are the questions that how they pinpoint you. Yeah. That's the problem.
And well, in addition to that, that is where the media comes in as well.
Yes, well, like I said again, and I don't mean it in no disrespect, but the media of St. Maarten, to me, needs to also get into the investigative part of it too. Like I said to you, find, and I said it to certain people, just do a little synopsis of how it is to do a business in this country, and you will see. And then you ask the government, okay, what your plans are on doing it. Try to be a tourist and that airport, and you come through immigration and all of that and find out, why do people want to come here? Billionaires that come in a mega yacht. And if you hear the things that they go through, and none of them, what hurts me the most, there's some major billionaires that come through this country. And where are they going? To St. Maarten. They don't want to stay in St. Maarten. They don't even want to invest in St. Maarten. Don't we want to ask ourselves that question too? And we are saying that we want high-end tourism, but are we catering for it? No. You can't even get one of them to want to stay. At least their yacht is staying, at least their plane is staying. And even that, we don't even want them that anymore. So how you want them to stay in a hotel if we don't want to throw the red carpet out? I'm not saying people with money should be, treated as a god, but you got to treat them a little bit, with, or let them pay for the services that they're going, that you don't have to go through all the nonsense that they have. And this is happening in the same Netherlands and Aruba and all that, so don't tell me it can't be happening in St. Maarten.
Gotcha. So, well, my next question for you is, and as we get ready to wrap up, is where do we move? How do we move forward from here? Considering one, while okay, you're not in the political sphere, but the party you founded, is in government right now. Right. What do you see? Where do you see us going moving forward?
Well, I think second have the biggest, and I've said it before. There is a serious lack of democracy in our country. I believe that the institution called politics is not what it was. So people elect people and then they can't serve, okay? Which I think is wrong, because anywhere in the world, election happens, the next day usually that political party goes in. I think the political, the election process in our country has to be revamped in the sense that the political sphere that we've had over the last years, especially following the system of the Dutch, is not in our DNA, is not in our blood, in the sense of this coalition thing, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Because the coalition system, it's either the party has to give up too much of their own ideology, which is, in my opinion, what's happening now, to the bigger party, or the bigger party to the smaller party, depending. Like right now, you can't throw down government without the NA being in power, because NA controls elections. Okay, so if a government falls today, the only party that's going to stay in power is NA. because all others have to form with any, because or else Prime Minister will call election. But at the same time, it's all centered around the Game of Thrones movie, as I call it, the kingdoms, okay? And the kingdoms don't work together, and that's the problem. So, and there's no real cohesion. Sorry?
Explain.
Okay,
yeah.
So I was telling you off air. Mm-hmm. So you have ROMI, Institutes, Policies and Construction. TIAT pushes policies, and they want to develop, and they don't coincide. Education doesn't coincide with the economy because it's given out scholarships that don't coincide with the labor force that we really need. Your medical is doing something totally different, or your labor policy is doing something. So now, take British system. You have the Prime Minister. Prime Minister reorganizes the cabinet every so often too. You didn't do your job, boom. There's no falling of government because you didn't do your job. I'm not saying that the parliamentary system can work, but I'm saying elect a prime minister or a president and let them put a cabinet together. You can still, for the passing of budgets and that, have a coalition in parliament. But it doesn't mean to say that government will fall if somebody is moved as a minister. And I believe also you will have far more work being done and far more cohesiveness being done if it's so. Then the people, just like the French side, you're going to have probably a runoff, okay? But you get a party in power, and you know the philosophy that you're getting there too. Because what happens? You have certain candidates or potential candidates, what they look, which party I can get in on. I ride in the wave. In the case of Mr. Bonkamp, he's saying he left the USP because of independence. But sorry to say this, brother man, you didn't know that the political party was about that before that you joined. You know, when I put in the list one time, the what's that committee called again? The
Electoral Committee?
The Electoral Committee.
Called Council, yeah.
Electoral Council. Mm-hmm. They said, but Theo, don't these candidates have to coincide to be part of the philosophy of the party? I said, my dear, yeah. And then as soon as election is gone, everybody got their own philosophy. That's the problem. So you will have differences, but you can't have total opposites in a party. And then you can't have that when you get into government, they completely change the philosophy, because then we don't go nowhere. So that's why I'm saying the buck should stop by the Prime Minister or the President in the case like a United States or even in the French side. Right now, the buck can't stop by the Prime Minister. The only real, and even then, her power is only up to the Council of Ministers, because if you call election, they have to approve it. The majority must give in. So where is the real power there? And then so you don't get the cohesion, and you don't get a real vision or country vision. You get individual visions.
Gotcha.
That's the problem.
That's the Game of Thrones you're referring to.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. So you mentioned ideology several times, and I definitely can't ignore the fact that in a former radio interview you referred to National Alliance as a communist party.
Yeah, maybe I was a little too harsh, but they're a party. What is the right word? Look, and I was trying to explain.
And what
that
is
to
your
people
thoughts
too.
as well on the fact that your party you founded, it's in coalition with them?
Well, yeah, I don't think they have much of a choice. They either go in opposition or they. But you can't lose your ideology. And why I mention that about the NA is because the NA has been one. They will tell you they want to build schools. They want to do all kind of programs, but to do the program you need money. If your economy is not doing well, you don't have the money to do it. If their philosophy is to beg the Netherlands for that money, well, there's a cost. The pound of flesh must be paid. So at the end, you're doing all of these things, but you're making it impossible to do business. And that's what I'm saying. If you're making it nearly impossible to get in tourists to the country, if you're not doing anything to make businesses grow, if you're not doing anything to make the economy grow in terms of moving with business licenses, in terms of building permits, do you know that you need a permit if you want to build a road in your yard more than X amount, you have to get a permit for that. I have no problem with that. But if it takes you a year, how are you going to get, Mr. Kantav, the bank is going to tell you, listen, you have a loan, but it's valid, what they give you, like 3 months, and you can't get your permit. So if we put these things, so what you're doing, that's a party that believes in adding more and more and more and more bureaucracy, and nothing is new. They're going to tell you they want to build schools, but they can't tell you how they're going to finance the schools. They can't tell you where they're going to get the monies from. I have given you every question you asked me. You asked me how to do it. And I hope that I also provided you with the answers to how you will do things. And that has always been my main issue with them. We were in coalition a few times as well. And it was always, I would not give up on the principles that we were founded on too. The UP party itself has been a very open one when it comes to business in the country, has been a very open one when it comes to foreigners in the country, and I will not let them be stepped on too. It has also been a party that has championed the poor in the sense of making sure that we took care of them. The issue has got to be that you never believed in the big government. You wanted things to move forward, and you wanted things to move easier. Yes, there's some areas that, maybe we will be bashed on, or I would be bashed on, not even the party so much, but I would be bashed on. But I couldn't do everything as well too. You had to rely on other people. Huh?
Yeah, you need a team.
And that's the key. You need a team that wants to work with you. And that, like I said too, I've always said that the party is like you get on a bus, and then when you get to the finish line, everybody get on the bus and they forget about the bus.
Gotcha.
And that's the problem, and that's why I say the electoral system that we're in. And again, I'm totally against that screening thing, because the population are the screeners. There should be nobody else in the whole world that I know.
Vote for ministers though.
Yeah, but that's where we should change it.
Gotcha.
That's where we should change it, because the population feels that who they elect should be the one in power. All of a sudden, you elect somebody, and then we play all kind of games. In my case, for the first 3 years, I couldn't because of the same catfish. So what you do is you immediately put somebody in suspicion, and then that's it. They can't become a minister. In other countries, as long as the person is, I'm not saying to do it here because then, everybody go crazy. There's even laws that say, all right, once elected, unless it's some murder or something like that, you can't be prosecuted. But I'm not saying to do it here in Sabatin, but I believe that who the population votes for is who they should get. It should not be that a person with over 1,000 votes, 2,000 votes, and then a guy with 50 votes, he's a minister because the person over. So the population looks at
that is. See, what you're saying is what you're saying goes back to Parliament in terms of, it is the politician's job, it's Parliament's job to make those changes. Because the bottom line is, yes, I get what you're saying, but the population votes for someone to represent them. The ministers don't represent the people. You know what I mean?
No, that's why it should be changed, but none of them want to change it. You know why you're going to change it?
So I find politically, no. This event with MP Von Camp is interesting as far as, imagine, as I was talking to some folks, I said, well, imagine if MP Arundel decides he's going to also resign.
They will make history.
That means to say, a party loses its entire representation.
That's right.
So then would that now give indication to other parties? Well, okay, probably, because one of the things I think may work better is have Parliament being the top 15 in total. Mm-hmm. So not in terms of how it is as far as the list is concerned. Because the parties will have their representation in Parliament, but it would be, I think what represents the voice of the people is those top 15 in general being the ones to be in Parliament.
Well, look, you said a very interesting thing, and I believe that one too. Bonkampa leaves. Mr. Arundel, for example, he leaves. So a political party came up with 2 seats. And before the next election, they come out of Parliament with 0 seats. Well, that will be history. Is it a possibility? Yeah. It's a big possibility. Mm-hmm. Could it happen to another political party? Possibly too. You never know. Okay. One, in the case of USP, their leader didn't get elected. So I think that also was historical in the sense of that too. That then you lose the real face of the party. But you had two other phases, but then they were never really party members too, or they were never really accepted. Okay, but anyway, it's still if because Mr. Arundel is still a member of the USP.
Yeah.
Okay, but now you come to your point, and this is why I'm saying it too. Electing a prime minister of the country, because while you're saying yes, in our system now, but if you look worldwide, presidents, prime ministers. Only in more or less the Dutch system itself is you're not electing those. You know that, and that's what the people are looking for. They are looking for the prime minister of who heads the country, and that is usually the highest vote getter. In the case of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte, his party was the biggest party. It's a given that he will be prime minister. It's like a gentleman's agreement in Ireland. Whoever's the biggest party, you prime minister, hands down. Nobody tries to get around him to form government. They all must form government with him. But that's also one of the reasons why they can't form a government, or they did. Again, I say it in St. Maarten. The small parties are usually the ones that put the bigger parties in such a hole that you either have to put so much water in the wine, it turns into Kool-Aid, and then nothing will happen. And again, I say it. I believe it should be the voice of the people who they elect. And that's why, again, I'm total for a total electoral reform.
Gotcha. So what is your take then on St. Martin's political landscape currently? I mean, there's new parties on the scene. Then there is, of course, fierce competition right now. How do you see
And you might go to 17
developing?
seats too. Then by what a thing.
But is that even necessary? While I do get it in the Constitution, but because
yes.
you know, it's like you look at corporations that have billions of dollars, staff of over 20, 30,000 people. Do you? I mean, you know, we're just an island, you know.
To me, you know, going beyond 15. I mean, okay, the small parties want that, but going beyond the 15, I don't think affordability of it, and number two, I still feel there's representation in Parliament for all. Let me put it this way: all different, people that are out there, and it should be that you got to go out there and work for the vote. It's to me there are no real big differences with the ideologies of the parties now, because of the individuals involved, other than the one that probably maybe to me sticks out the most in the sense that they're a little bit outside of that reality is PFP. All the rest, more or less, and PFP still too, because they're also very socialist oriented, but they tend to lean more to the Dutch, but the rest are more or less nearly all the same. So again, you're looking at the base. It's not like Holland where you got left, right, center. Everybody's center, you know?
Center, right.
Yeah. Because there's still more regulations, and I listen to the Parliament meetings. Most of them are for more regulations, and I don't know if they realize what's going on in the country in the sense of there's no growth. Oh, okay, the central bank comes out and says 14% growth, but I think it's just because of you coming back from COVID. But a lot of businesses, to me, to see that they're still are able to be around after COVID, I tip my hat off to the private sector, especially those that were involved in tours and stuff like that. And there was no cruise sector, or the tourism was down to next to nothing. You have to be saying that our private sector is very resilient. Now, to make sure that it continues to grow is another one. I'll give you a point, and this is not a lot of discussion has been going on. If you check within our timeshare industry, it has become a very aging part of the industry. The owners are getting older, but their children don't want to take over their timeshare. So they're actually giving up their timeshare. In Aruba, they're actually getting younger. So the question is, how are we going to stop that trend? And what can we do to improve it? Because what's happening, Mr. Kantav, is that segment, I hate to use this word, is dying out. And we're not looking at the replacement on a fast enough level that what we're going to do in years to come. And it's in my opinion, when you sit with the resorts that actually in St. Maarten own resorts in Aruba and ask them, how is working in Aruba and how is it working in St. Maarten? First of all, they're going to tell you that the occupancy in certain months of the year in Aruba in their slow months is their occupancy in December, January, St. Maarten. Now that is amazing. They will tell you how hard it is to do business in St. Maarten and how easy it is to do business in Aruba. And we're both part of the kingdom. So don't tell me that it is because we were told to implement these rules.
Gotcha. Okay, so my final question for you, which is what I wanted to ask earlier, is what is your thoughts on dollarization, and do you think that that's something that would benefit St. Maarten?
Well, I'm not. There's certain things that I've never hidden my position on: dollarization, U.S. preclearance, independence, all of that. I believe that are good for St. Maarten, and I'll make it very short and sweet. If Sabre Station Bonaire went dollarization, why is it not good for St. Maarten?
Gotcha.
You know, the main thing, our central bank, and I go back to words from Dr. Trump, not the president of the U.S., but the president of a central bank before. In his vision was creating a central bank that we could have used expertise from. Right now, our central bank, because it doesn't regulate our banking industry, it more or less oversees it, but it doesn't regulate it. And their main job is the Gilder, checking on the Gilder. So if we get rid of the Gilder, you get rid of a very costly central bank as well. You could downscale it to next to nothing, because what else is it doing for the country? And, I'm sorry, but to be so direct, but I think those kind of direct questions need to be, what good are you to my country? Other than costing me millions per year in paying certain salaries, but what good are you to my country? You bring me laws that prohibit me from doing things, but you don't bring me any laws that are helping me to stimulate and to create economies. And you can tell me a lot about my GDP, you can tell me a lot about these things, but you don't come with any recommendations. And that's where central banks worldwide also are involved in helping the countries move forward. But yeah, in our case, I have my, I don't feel so positive with them, let me put it that way.
Okay. Well, Mr. Heyliger, I'd like to thank you so much for coming on the program. It's an extended version, basically. I appreciate your willingness to be open, and any final words?
Well, first of all, thank you, and thank you for having me on the program. First time I'm here in a very long time. And and thank you to all of those that listened and also saw us on, Facebook, right? There
YouTube,
we go.
Yeah.
On YouTube, there you go.
Cool.
Thank
all
you.
right, so to everyone, thank you guys once again, and do take care and enjoy your weekend.